Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
So this afternoon, I dumped a whole bowl of apple slices on my head while my 1.5-year-old son stared at me in absolute amazement. What did you get up to this Easter?
I just visited family and made some good food.
Yeah, it's just another weekend in the Blackburn household. So, yeah, it's our first birthday. This is we're doing a little bit of a retrospective that we're going to begin with, but yeah. It's we've definitely come a long way, and for anyone, we have a special announcement at the end, so it'd be good to stick around for that. But yeah, as I said, before we begin, I want to take a look back on our progress with a retrospective trio of questions. So over the past year, from April to now, what was your favourite Apple product release?
I had to think about this. I think that it's the Apple Watch Series 2.
Yeah, cool. I kind of gathered that might be yours. And for me, as you would suspect, is MacBook Pro Touch Bar. And any listeners that have been with us, over the past 6 months or even from the beginning, they would definitely know where our preferences lie in terms of getting excited about certain products. But speaking of which, what was the most anticipated product that you expected but didn't actually arrive?
Yeah, so this one was much more recent. It was the iPad Pro 9.7-inch 2, which we expected to have come in March or April.
Yeah, that was that's still the biggest mystery to me. But for me, I was expecting there to be a new iMac around the MacBook Pro launch, but that didn't happen. But of course, as we'll get into it very soon, there is one coming. And finally, now, because the whole podcasting thing was brand new to us. I mean, we listened to podcasts, but we never had done them before. We were very much just these Apple fans that wanted to get our voice out there. What do you think is the most valuable lesson that you've learnt about it, going from where we've literally gone from zero experience to a year later?
Yeah, I think I've learnt a whole bunch, but I think the most valuable thing for me would just be to get a standalone mic from the beginning. Just makes life easier for everyone and really is monumentally better when it comes to sound quality.
Yeah, I think a lot of people may not realise there were at least a few occasions where we had to do episode re-records. Even our first one we had to redo again due to some mic issues, but it's all a learning process. I'd say for me that definitely, but also I don't think I haven't listened to many podcasts from the very start, and I don't know of any where the people don't actually know each other before they start. So we kind of took on something that is pretty much unheard of, at least I think so. And I was telling one of our listeners about how, because he was asking me, how did you and Nick kind of start or whatever, were you friends or whatever? And I just said, no, we actually just we're in the same sort of conversations on Twitter, all Apple related. And yeah.
Yeah, I get the same reaction, a sort of surprised reaction when people are like, oh, how did you guys know each other? Just met on Twitter and started a podcast. It kind of started, I guess, as like a joke, an inside joke that then just turned into, something that I think we're both really proud of and happy to do. So yeah, it's been good.
I think the best part of that was basically, it was that bit of a joke. Then I messaged you, like direct message. I was like, didn't even know anything about you. And I was like, yeah, so do you want to do this podcast? And you were just like, yep, straight away. Like there was no hesitation. And I was like, awesome. Okay, where do we start? Google, how do you create a podcast? But, and being on the other sides of Australia, we've never actually met before. So it's all, as I said, if there's been anyone, listening now that's been there since the early days, I think you could probably hear the progress. We kind of become a bit more, we start to know each know a bit more about each other and as we're actually learning how to get this whole podcast thing going. So thanks for anyone that's been a long time listener.
Speaking of which, getting to know each other over time, the one thing that we do is not really communicate our purchases and sort of just send pictures
Yes.
once they're done. So you kind of did that recently.
Yeah. And I'm going to start this episode off with product perception. So I got myself some AirPods. Yes, I had to just withhold everything within myself from telling Nick about it, because as soon as they were underway, I was like, no, I'm going to try and surprise them. And it's usually really hard for me to keep surprises. But yeah, the best thing about this is they had a 6-week lead time, but they arrived in 4.5 weeks, just over that. So that was a nice surprise as well. And I've written quite a comprehensive review that will be posted online, so I'm not going to give the full thing here, but just a few things to mention about them. So I've kind of I like to create a mishmash of words and stuff. And one word I would describe AirPods as is cord freedom. It's just the freedom to move around. You get this seamless audio experience, and just even when you're out walking and you're wearing them, it's a completely different ballgame. And I have had a few strange looks. I've had only one occasion of, why are you wearing earplugs? Which was quite funny. I had to describe exactly what the AirPods were. So have you had much of that, though, Nick? Did you get...
I've had a few surprised looks or comments about them. Never an earplugs comment, but some people would be like, oh, it looks weird without the wire. Like the wire makes it weird. Why does it look weird without the wire?
Yeah.
It's like you're tethering yourself to a device. That's weird.
For anyone that's keen to know, exactly what I think about them, I think you can probably gather that I have a very positive reaction to these. I'm very excited about these. It's got a very futuristic feel, and we'll share around my review when I put that up.
So what was the deciding factor on you pulling the trigger and getting them?
I'd heard all about your experience with them and stuff, but they're still a new product. I don't know anyone that has any. And so for me, there was still this aspect of mystery about them. And there's so much online backlash when they came out, of people like dissing how they looked and everything. And I was obviously very excited about them. But yeah, when it just came down to it, I thought, stuff it. Let's go see what the fuss is all about. And it's very awesome. So one thing I would say is they're kind of like when the iPad was first announced. So what I'd say is that AirPods are the iPad of audio. You never thought you'd want them. So no one ever thought that they'd want an iPad until they saw it, until they used one. And then now they're, an extremely popular and common device. And no one ever, prior to them being announced, or even any sort of completely wireless Bluetooth earphones, no one's ever said, oh yeah, I really want a pair of those. Like, the majority of people have been like, if you explain the concept to them, they're worried about losing them. And I just really wanted to to be one of the first of within people I know to get some. And and there's no looking back. I mean, I'm really loving them, but full review to come soon. So we're going to move on to uniquely Apple. Now, Apple Music have launched a new series called House of Strombo. Now, this was officially announced on Beats One by Zane Lowe. And so what it is there's a Canadian TV and CBC radio personality called George...
Strombolopoulos?
Strombolopoulos. I was saying it, like I read it. I read about this, and I was saying his name, rolled off the tongue so easily, and I thought, this will be good. We'll come to the episode, and I stalled. So, Strombolopoulos, there you go.
But even in the name, they don't even keep the full name there, House of Strombo, knowing how difficult it is to say.
Oh, definitely. Have you heard of this guy at all?
Never.
Yeah, it was a complete out of the blue sort of thing. But what this is this is a spin-off of something called The Strombo Show. So House of Strombo is a 10-episode series Now, there's a 14-minute segment under the Browse section of Apple Music, and this is a group, a tribe called Red, so there's these 3 DJs doing a performance. So they're kind of like these small performances, and they're shot in black and white, and it's quite sort of artistic and cool. But as well as performances, there's feature artist interviews and behind the scenes. The strange thing about this, though, is it doesn't seem, I haven't looked into it too much, but it doesn't seem to be properly, exclusively, just Apple Music. Like, these episodes are also on YouTube, so I'm kind of wondering whether is there some licensing thing, or are they just testing the waters with Apple Music? They don't want to go the full. What do you reckon's happening there?
Which YouTube channel are they? Not, they haven't been like ripped by some odd YouTuber, right? They're on like.
No, apparently they were officially.
Huh. Yeah, I haven't actually seen too much about this. I sort of opened the article and then thought, well, I don't really know this guy. I barely get a chance to listen to Beats One, trying to up that. So I didn't pay too much attention to it. So yeah, I haven't seen it as being like overly marketed though in the Apple Music app or on their YouTube page. So I wouldn't have said like, I wouldn't say it's an exclusive that they're really proud of if they are trying to make it an exclusive. I don't know. Maybe I've missed the whole boat on this one, but it hasn't stuck out to me.
I kind of think it's one of Zane Lowe's mates, and he's like, yeah, I'll get you on a bit of Apple Music, But
I actually think that's how that pretty much works. He has full reign of what happens on Apple Music.
Yeah. So if
Beats One,
if there anyone that is a big fan of George Strombolopoulos, there you go,
nailed it.
Then let us know about it, and I'm going to make it my mission between now and next episode to check it out a bit more and watch an episode or two. So, other things that are Apple Music related is clothing. So this is pretty exciting because Apple have applied to register to have Apple Music trademark used on clothing, wristbands, footwear, headgear, etc. But within the description of all the categories that are under this application, the more surprising ones are cloth bibs, lingerie, and Halloween costumes. So I'm assuming this is more the case of the actual usage will only apply to a few of these categories, but it's kind of like they have to cover all bases, I guess.
Yeah, covering all bases.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to be able to just buy some of this online, but I'm kind of feeling like this is going to be a in-store thing only. I don't know. What do you reckon?
I think it's going to be an Apple Music Festival only thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I reckon. So just like a little merch store at Apple Music Festival, which used to be iTunes Festival. That's what I think it'll be. And then just registering such a wide range of applications, like you said, cloth bibs, that sort of thing. I think that's just covering all bases, but it'll probably just be like t-shirts, caps, that sort of thing.
It just sucks so much because all the stuff, all these exclusive one-off events where you can buy things, particularly remember the Olympic watch bands, it's all just so far away from us and out of our reach. I'd just love to get my hands on some.
Yeah, it would be cool.
And so speaking of clothing, there's been a bit of a new internal promotion. So for Apple employees, so what's this all about?
Yeah, as you said just a while ago with like the Olympic band exclusives, they've also had employee only exclusives, which put more than just distance between us and that. So basically this time they have set up a sort of promotion or a internal competition where Apple employees, both the retail and corporate employees, so 40,000 employees, they actually get physical rewards for closing their activity rings. So I've seen t-shirts and they look just like the rings. They've got the rings, closed rings printed on there, and also colored pins, which were not posted in the greatest color sort of levels. So it took me a while to see that they're bronze, silver, and gold. So I'm not sure what actually classifies as the difference between them. Do you know?
No.
Yeah,
No
I
idea.
don't think they have actually said. So a couple of their employees have been posting these pictures on Instagram and have been picked up there. So
Those employees are probably ex-employees now.
yeah. So they have an iOS app called Challenges, which they use to run this promotion, and you need a unique code to enter. So, as I said, they put more than just distance between us. But it would be awesome for these sort of things to be open to the public, like same with the band exclusives, that sort of thing. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I'm thinking if they did some public thing, it could be, the same app probably, that you gain a certain achievement. And from that you get a code, and then you enter that code on there's like a custom Apple Store landing page for it. And I would see it working as not so much redeeming something for free, but that code gives you access to the store and then you can buy it, sort of thing. That would be cool, and I'm sure that'd get a lot of Apple fans out there running around. So, yeah,
I think it would keep me motivated. It would add to motivation levels for me to earn physical rewards. I guess they can't. It would be expensive if they had to keep it up, endlessly. But if you could, I don't know, purchase. I don't know exactly how it would work, but it would be cool either way.
Yeah, we just pretty much just want some cool Apple merch. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now we're going to move on to. I'm going to have to combine a couple of segments here. So Rumor Mill and Core Focus, because there's been a recent event involving senior members of Apple, which also combines with a very rare occasion of a pre-announcement. So this leads us to talking about products that will be coming out and the kind of rumored features of them. So, yeah, a pre-announcement by Apple is hardly even heard of. How did this actually happen, and what was the reason for the meeting?
Yeah, this was one of the most bizarre Apple things I've seen. You could probably put this in the same range as the Antenna Gate response, where they had Steve Jobs and Tim Cook up there, and also I think it was Scott Forstall at the time, but this is sort of in that league. So basically they invited a couple of journalists. They had people from Mashable, TechCrunch, John Gruber from Daring Fireball. They invited them and a couple others who are best described as Apple friendlies. They invited them for a discussion, which luckily on TechCrunch the whole obviously wasn't videoed, but on TechCrunch they've put up the whole the
whole transcript.
Yeah, they've put up the whole transcript there, which is a really great read, so go have a look. But there were 4 Apple representatives, so Phil Schiller, Craig Federighi, John Turnus, who is not really well known, I don't think, but he's the VP of hardware engineering at Apple, which obviously takes a bit of responsibility for what happened here, and Bill Evans from PR. So he didn't really have anything to say, but would just make sure that anything they did say that they weren't supposed to would be classified as off the record, or, just keep them in line. So yeah, so it was also weird in the place that they had it was within Apple's product realization lab, which I found just weird, because it's not like they're actually showing them a product that they've got there. They're just talking about it and everything's covered anyway, which I also find funny, because they could just not do it there and then they wouldn't have to cover anything. But anyway, this was very focused on, it was basically an apology for what's happened with the Mac Pro. So they're basically committed to continuing development on a new Mac Pro, brand new rethought Mac Pro, which they kept on describing as modular, but I think that I wouldn't place too much emphasis on the words modular there, because they classified as the old Mac Pros as modular too. So if anything, it could just be the same kind of modular. And then they also mentioned making a Pro display in the future.
Yes.
which we've discussed that previously said they were out of that game, but maybe a few false or misconstrued reports there. So basically, they came out to tell that the reporters that the 2013 Mac Pro was flawed mainly because of they took a bet on dual GPUs. So they thought that the market would go into small, low powered but dual GPUs. So splitting the processing power across two of them. And essentially the market didn't go that way. They went with a really big single powerful GPU, and essentially because of the radical new design, they had what ended up being heat issues, thermal restrictions. So it made it hard for Apple to upgrade the specs in the current form factor. So essentially, it was just an apology from Apple for that. And at the same time, they did a minor Mac Pro upgrade where they just took the mid-tier specs and placed them at the low-tier spec and just cut out the previous low spec. So
yeah, they like literally haven't even touched them. Like,
just
just
nothing
change the
you
pricing
couldn't buy
structure.
before. It's just cheaper.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess one of the questions that kept coming up by the reporters, which I find to be, what people would want to know is what took Apple so long to realize that they had made a mistake. So it was the 2013 Mac Pro. So that was, let's say December 2013 was when it was released, but it was announced,
Yes.
I think, at WWDC in June. Was it?
Yeah. I remember that.
It's been 3 full years for them to realize that they couldn't make any upgrades to this. So basically, I think part of that period would have been the GPU industry moving in a different direction and not clearly showing that to Apple, so they didn't have their finger on the pulse there, and that might have taken a little while to actually be realized. Then I think the issue was that, maybe Mac Pro isn't that important within Apple, and the execs that do care about it had to really convince the execs that don't care about it that there was an issue, that it needed to be upgraded, that they couldn't keep it with the current form factor. So I think one of the lines that's been poured over quite a bit from this meeting was they were asked, when did you realize that this is, that you couldn't update this Mac Pro and you needed to do a new one? And then they said there wasn't one meeting, and in practice that's really how things work. So that's been taken as they didn't have a meeting to discuss it, which is evidently not true. They didn't just happen to start at this table, right? They didn't just start there and go, we need to make a new Mac Pro. So, but I think because the words actually was there wasn't one meeting. I think what had happened is over time, they've collectively decided, but you've had like a few people earlier being like, well, this is not working, and some others being, probably more focused on iPhone or iPad and not really the Mac Pro market.
Yeah, it certainly is long overdue. I definitely understand the frustration with Mac Pro users. I certainly, would have expected there to have been one last year. But yeah, do you feel like it's because the complaints from the public got to a point, got to a boiling point? Do you think that's what tipped them over to actually do this, or would they have been kind of having this planned anyway? That's the main sort of thing
So I think they probably thought that they could cater for most of the complaints market in the MacBook Pro Touch Bar. And one of the things that I actually like most that came out of this was the acknowledgement from Apple that there are more pros than just the photo and video pros, which are the most vocal in the Apple community, but aren't the only pros. I've tweeted about it before, I've been quite frustrated about it before, and they've said they've got people in science and maths, and they've got, like designers and all sorts of different occupations, engineering, those are all pros. And the old Mac Pro, the 2013 Mac Pro, doesn't cater to all of them. And so their big focus is creating stuff that will.
Did you see that quote from Craig saying that if he were to base it on Xcode downloads, then the majority of their pro user base would be software developers?
Yeah, exactly. And how I think that's very accurate. It's a fair point to make.
I mean, this is certainly very exciting. As soon as I just saw the words Mac Pro and iMac, which we'll mention, and display, I was just, I saw it in the morning. I just got super excited. I was like, where do I buy it? How do I? It's like, oh no, it's not actually out yet, but they're talking about it. So, either way, it's really exciting. So we're going to start off with the modular Mac Pro. Now, they said it wouldn't be available this year. So a lot of people are expecting, okay, well, surely later 2018. So could there be an October 2018 event, shipping later that year, early 2019? I hope it wouldn't be longer than that, but, it could possibly, could it be pushed to a March 2019 event? I mean, what are you sort of feeling timing wise? We don't know too much about it. We don't really know how long they've been working on it.
Yeah, I would say they've been working on it about 6 months was my gauge from the interview, but I think, I think they only need to redesign a chassis. A lot of the other parts are just off the shelf. So I see, especially because it's not built in, display. So I see it as maybe a mid 2018 ship or mid 2018 announcement. I don't think they can wait too much longer.
So a bit sooner.
Yeah, I would say sooner.
And so just to expand on the definition of modular, so this is, just meaning being able to access or switch out and upgrade parts easily. Particularly, say the iMac has always had access to upgrading RAM, but this will include, hard drives, GPU cards, etc. Now, there's already been a few different concept renders that have popped up, but easily to me, the best one is these renders and a video from Curved Labs in Germany. So did you check out this video?
Yeah, I checked it out.
Yeah, straight up, what do you think of that sort of design?
I think Apple can do better than that. The one thing I particularly didn't like was the touch bar on the computer.
Yes. Okay. So what I'm feeling about this is I love the main look of it. It's quite industrial. I think the way that the side panels shift open is quite innovative. So if anyone hasn't seen it, imagine looking at a, desktop tower, bird's eye view, and then suddenly that rectangular shape becomes a parallelogram. So the actual sides angle out at the same time, but it still retains this shell form. It kind of almost imagine a very large Apple TV standing up. Now, if Apple went with something like this, I certainly don't think it would have as many ports as in the video. I kind of think a dedicated Touch ID button is pretty unlikely, and definitely a touch bar unlikely. Like whatever they come out with is going to be much more minimal. Look at the 2013 Mac Pro. That was just like super sleek, super minimal. But they're, kind of admitting now possibly too minimal because they didn't allow enough space for thermal restrictions and such. So yeah, I like that. But I certainly think, they're kind of, dreaming a bit too much by thinking there's going to be 4 USB-C and 4 USB-A and all these card slots and everything.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few, different renders. I saw another render where it was something like that sort of shape, like a tower shape, but imagine the current trash can, I'm not a fan of the term, but let's just go with that. Trash can Mac Pro, imagine that sort of morphed into a tower. So that sort of same look, but just more
same
angular.
Rounded look, yeah.
And
but like elongated.
Yeah, that had like, someone put a render of, barely an exaggeration. I think there were 12 USB-C ports and then like 6 USB, A ports. It was just, ridiculous. They had so much stuff on there. I was just like, Apple's never going to put 12 USB-C ports on something.
Back in the predictions episode, I guessed max, I think 6 USB-C.
Yeah, there's 6 Thunderbolt 2s now in the Mac Pro. That's fair enough.
Yeah. Now, speaking of ports, so they were asked about it, particularly due to, the removal of pretty much most of the ports, say, with the MacBook Pro, leaving just USB-C. And Phil said, just because on one product they remove something doesn't mean they're going to remove it from everything if it doesn't make sense. So if they feel like that there's enough need for Mac Pro users to have legacy ports or more of a certain type or whatever, then they're more likely to go with that. I highly doubt you're going to end up with a Mac Pro with one USB-C port. I mean, they kind of, with the 2013 Mac Pro, they were sort of depending on there being more Thunderbolt capable peripherals to use, but that sort of didn't quite work out. So, I mean, do you think that's pretty safe to say that they're going to have more than one USB-C port?
Yeah, I think it is pretty safe to say that. I wonder if they might, because I think the two main controversial ones are the USB-A port that they removed and then the headphone jack. So I think you could still have pretty much both of those. The one reason why I say maybe the USB-A is that developers are clearly a big market and are most likely to just have USB-A accessories from the Apple devices that they purchase directly. So I think that they could still keep it on there.
Yeah, I'd say 1, 2 maximum, definitely not 6.
Oh,
so
yeah, for sure.
Now, moving on to another part of this Curve Labs video is, a new Apple display. So what are your thoughts on Apple actually moving back into this area away from LG Ultrafine? Do you feel like that they may have always been planning on doing this, or was this more of a reaction to what happened with the LG Ultrafine issues?
I would say they hadn't made a final decision. I don't think they were, I think it was wait and see, probably. And they waited and they saw that they need to get back into the game. I've always loved the look of Mac displays. I've never found them to be financially viable, but I think a display is so important for using any technology, especially I would say Apple technology, because the displays are usually really good. So I see the importance of having one or multiple that work really, really well with the new Mac Pro. I'm fully on board with that. The one thing is, like, a little bit selfishly, I'm less into the Mac now than I have been before. And so
yeah,
I would, if they're going to be doing
I think a lot of people are, though.
Yeah. I think if they're going to be doing some really cool hard work, I maybe prefer it to be on the iPad.
I was absolutely ecstatic to hear that they're going to be bringing one out. And I just, as much as LG Ultrafine, the actual screen itself was great and the technology itself was great, aside from those issues, just the actual aesthetics of it, I just certainly couldn't bring myself to ever want to get one. And that's pretty much what it comes down to. I just want to see like a real sleek, modern Apple display with minimal to no bezels on it. And yeah, the concept in the Curve Labs video is quite similar to what I imagine. Although in their one, they've got HDMI ports on the back and stuff, but I feel like, Apple's version will go much the way of the Ultrafine, where you'll have, a few USB-C ports on it. So, yeah, I mean, Phil confirmed that there's no touch display. So that's as expected, and to me that's good news. But they were actually, Ina Fried from Axios actually referenced the Microsoft Surface Studio. And so what did Apple say about that?
Yeah, so I thought that their response was really good, and probably I agree is a better setup. So Craig, who was classic Craig in this interview. If you go have a read, basically said that the iPad Pro and Pencil is Apple's answer to that segment of pros. And he also said that they're not discouraging you from owning more than one device. So, Apple is okay to say, look, if you want that workflow, we have these two things that work amazingly together, and, get both. And, but they do want to continue to develop in that area. So I think that means on the iPad side and not on the Mac side though.
Yeah, he was saying that they want to make the iPad Pro with the Pencil focus on that and make it more capable. And I was just really happy to hear that. And so moving on to the last one, and this one will be coming sooner, is an iMac. Well, they said an iMac for pros, so I'm just going to call it an iMac Pro. So Phil Schiller confirmed this, and he said new iMacs in plural. So I don't know whether that just means the two sizes or whether it means that there's going to be just iMac and iMac Pro, which I
Definitely
feel like is quite likely, yeah. And so what I think of this is an iMac Pro will have a new design. There'll be the 4K and 5K screen options like your current iMacs, and there's going to be some other aspect of new technology built into it. And one that they will call iMac, they're gonna pull a flat out fun iPad move on us, and I feel like they're going to retain. The design's going to be very similar to the current iMac. It will be cheaper, and I don't think it'll be a 4 and certainly not a 5K resolution. Like, it still will be high resolution, but it'll just be like what they're doing with iPad. It's good. The screen's not going to be as good. The screen's going to be good, just not as good as the Pro level ones. And, will both of them have USB-C only? Yeah, maybe. I'm not really sure, because this one's interesting because, they went USB-C only for just MacBook, so that's, probably pretty likely. And I feel like for this, I'm kind of feeling like they're going to have an event before September. I mean, it's not going to be in the iPad event. It's not going to be in the iPhone event, and I doubt they'd want to squeeze it into the iPad event. So how do you think they're going to try and release these?
I think we'll be part of the iPad event. I think that's when it will be in, probably October. I don't think it'll be ready for WWDC, because if it was, I think this all would have just happened at WWDC.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough to say. And I guess in some ways it could be the October event would be a real pro focused event like they did with MacBook Pro.
What do you think we can expect from the design? Do you think there'll be like still the chins and big bezels?
No. Well, yeah, just as I mentioned before, I'd say new design. A really significant one, futuristic, or just sort of iterative? I feel like what I was describing with a Pro display, I feel like it's going to be more along those lines, more to the edge. I still feel like there'll be a bezel, but they'll be very thin. And there possibly would be a chin, but I think it's going to be much smaller. In terms of, I feel like the thickness of it, because looking at my iMac right now, it's really thin at the edge and then it sort of curve bulges out towards the back. But I don't really feel like they're going to make that much thinner.
Yeah, they don't really need to.
They don't want to sacrifice. Yeah, they don't want to sacrifice technology, and they're certainly not going to build the technology into the base of it.
Yeah,
as we said in the predictions.
Yeah, and you don't hold it. Like, I think a lot about my Apple Watch being thinner, and of course the bad rap Apple gets for making their devices supposedly thinner. But yeah, the thing is, like, I suppose every time I think, I could do with a slimmer watch, I just remember that I never hold it in my hand, so it's not. I don't think it's first priority of theirs, even though it looks better when it's thinner, like as a fashion piece. But yeah.
Yeah. So basically, if anything, left and right bezels dramatically thinner, and if there's going to be a chin, it'll just be a lot thinner and possibly black, just to kind of disguise it a bit more. But yeah, this is an area that I think it's safe to say I'm certainly more interested in than yourself. but I certainly don't feel like I'll be buying any of them. I mean, Mac Pro is always a high price level. I've got my MacBook Pro. It's awesome. It's going well. It's going to, see me for the however long. And my iMac now has just become but below secondary to me. I used to use it all the time, but now I'm on the MacBook Pro every morning, every night. So
I would love to move from MacBook Pro to iMac, one of the new iMacs. So hopefully it works out that way. I fully use iPad as portable, so I might be more likely to move that way than I guess you would be.
I've had a couple of iMacs, and I've always been a big advocate for them, and so I just think that they can do something good in this space, and can't wait to see one. So moving on to something that is, to me, is quite awesome news. Now there's news about a big breakthrough for diabetics and the medical industry involving Apple Watch. So what's actually happening here?
Yeah, so Apple has a secret team of biomedical engineers working on a solution for treating diabetes. It would be through optical sensors to constantly monitor the blood sugar levels, which basically, like the heart rate monitor, shines light through the skin. It's still in trial stages. I think the real advantage here is constant monitoring and non-invasive sort of monitoring, so that's pretty good. It was supposedly first imagined by Steve Jobs as part of a wearable device, and they've been working on it for years. And I've sort of seen this pop up every now and then, maybe sometimes less specifically about diabetes and just using Apple Watch for health, which I guess, judging by HealthKit, Apple's made clear that it is seen as a health device by them, or at least software is seen as a health system or ecosystem by them. And then, I think we can all agree that Apple's ahead in the smartwatch area. And
yes.
I mean, just looking at the failed sort of, I sound a bit like a famous person at the moment, but, the failing Android Wear 2 that hasn't been doing so well. If Apple can continue to push these kinds of things, it's already thought of as a fitness device. And if it was like a health and fitness, talking about real health would be really good. I say real health, but I just mean like non-weight related issues, which are real health issues. But so, I don't think it will happen this year, which I think you also were thinking.
Yeah. I mean, I think if it's in trial stages, you've got a lot to happen between now and an actual shipping product.
Yeah.
So hopefully towards the end of 2018, maybe longer than that. I don't really know. I mean, if they've been working on it for a long time, maybe they are a lot further ahead than we think. But I'd say optimistically next year.
Yeah, I also will say that I don't think Apple really has the luxury of time these days with sort of things that people could also get out, like we were talking about the Mac Pro and that sort of stuff. I don't think they can afford to just, push it out another 3 years, another 2 years and see how things go. So, I do think they push quite hard to get these things in now, but I will say that Tim Cook's been questioned about this stuff before, about the Apple Watch being used as like a proper health device, and he sort of pushed back against Apple directly selling it as a health device, and that's probably because they would need FDA, Federal Drug Administration, something like that in the US,
something official.
They would need approval from them, which might hinder the regularity of updates or the speed of updates that they could actually push through each time, and also put them under more scrutiny from another body, which I'm not sure that they really want. So, I guess it could also be sold as like a add-on thing, maybe as part of the band. I don't know.
I just think this...
Yeah,
I mean, I just think either way, this is just awesome news for diabetics.
It's fantastic.
I mean, Oh yeah, I mean, I know so many people with diabetes, and I just think how much it sucks to have to, however many times a day, have to actually prick yourself and measure your levels and draw blood and everything, and to take that annoyance and that level, that aspect of pain just out of your life and have it constantly monitored through your watch. It's going to be amazing for diabetics. And in terms of Apple Watch sales and stuff as well, I mean, diabetes is a major condition worldwide. So
yeah, and I think more and more people are becoming diabetic than ever before, I believe. So it will be absolutely a huge breakthrough, and I really hope that they do get it out and get it soon, especially for those people with diabetes. So yeah, it would be really, really cool.
Yeah, definitely. So hopefully, fingers crossed, next year. But now we're going to move over to appetizers. Apple released an app called Clips. We did a quick post about this when it was released. Now, this is their take on like a Snapchat-ish image and video editing sort of app. It's all about short shareable clips that you can use on social media platforms and send in messages. Now, it acts as a central app to create your content rather than being tied to a singular social platform. It just recently hit 1 million downloads, and funnily enough, just before Clips was released, Microsoft for iOS released one called Sprinkles. Very similar. So I don't really know what's going on with everyone, this big race to have the same apps. I mean, you got stories in Facebook now. You got, I don't know, it's all a bit overload for me. But yeah, I'll just run off some of the features of it. So you can capture photo and video. You hold down to record live titles. So you actually speak to input quick and easy timed captions with a few animation styles to choose from. And there's photo video filters as expected, and you can add stuff like emoji and graphics and speech bubbles, etc. And it has you add music, and that auto adjusts itself. So just from that, it's kind of like an amalgamation between an iMovie and some social purpose app. So why do I think Apple made this? Well, clearly there's this current popular type of short form communication is just everywhere. So from that, I'd say mostly appeal to a teen or young adult demographic. And I feel like it's disposable. If it fails, there's no big loss. I mean, it is free. So there was like an overnight announcement for it. No one really knew they were working on it. So now that's been out for a bit, what's your thoughts on Clips? Is this kind of, I know how you don't like photo booth, but you can delete clips. So what's your feeling on it?
I've really enjoyed using Clips so far. I've seen some really cool uses for it. I've used it a couple of times and shared a few videos which have gotten really positive feedback from my friends. So so far I've just give it a thumbs up. It's been easy to use. It's fun, gets creative juices flowing, which is always good. I personally am most interested by the facial recognition for sharing. It picks up who is actually in your, let's just call it, who's in your clip. And when you go to share, it's a custom share sheet where the first people in the iMessage bubbles are actually in the clip, which was pretty awesome and worked in my testing.
That's good.
And the best platform I found for sharing was actually iMessage. That's, moving on to the cons is probably because it's locked in a square mode. So, you can't really share it to like Instagram stories because that's vertical, and Snapchat, no integration there. So, I wouldn't say it's like a stories equivalent, but it is, it's convenient. So, I think that's just my general view. I will just say that why I think they made it is that I think it's just like an internal software competition, that they're probably now running once a year to just get a little bit of promotion. And I see, the Music Memos as being the first winner of that competition, and Clips being as the second winner of that competition. We can probably expect a new thing next year.
Maybe it was just like an extra credit project.
Exactly that.
Yeah. Okay. So what I think about it, well, it's free. So, I mean, there's no way to me that it would succeed as a paid app. And I don't know how many of those million downloads have then deleted it. Don't have any stats there. Easily the best feature for me is the live titles, and some of the filters are cool, but I feel like that there could be more. But I just feel like that aspect of it, to me, in terms of the longevity of the app, they should have just used live titles and such to enhance iMovie and as well as a feature in iMessage. Which brings me to my cons, which I'm going to just start off with. Well, the icon itself, and you know how much I'm a stickler for icons. It's not bad. It doesn't look bad. It just looks lazy. Like they literally took the FaceTime, their version of a video camera logo, and changed it up a bit. And yeah, I just feel like as a standalone app, it doesn't have much longevity because I don't feel like it's that intuitive in terms of the different aspects of it. Yes, but when it comes to doing speaking your captions in and things like that, I feel like if the type of demographic that it's targeting, and they're so used to using the way that all these stories and Snapchat and everything works, they open this up and it's more like a quick video editor, and it just takes a little bit of extra effort, and the fact you kind of export your video per se, which leads me to believe that it could have just enhanced iMovie. So hopefully, maybe if it's not sticking around, then they'll just do that. But I'd say the biggest downfall about it, though, is that there's no AR face detect features that you get with Snapchat and Facebook and stuff, which I think so many people use. I mean, I don't like them myself, but that's the big draw card to those type of things. So, yeah, while I sound a bit down about it, I just think it's more because it's not entirely targeted to me. As I said, I don't really like the surge of all these stories and all these people trying to copy Snapchat and everything lately. It's happened in the past few months. I mean, Instagram stories is decent, but it's not a big draw card for me. I know maybe I'm just the wrong type of person for it. It's cool that it exists, but do you feel like this may become like the music memos, not really receive an update?
Yeah, I think it will be exactly like music memos and not receive an update. So do you think you'll keep using it, or? For now, I think I'll probably use it about once a month, and I'm averaging that out for the next year. So probably use it more in the beginning and less as time goes on. I generally have good intentions for like temporarily fun apps, but I think one of the biggest issues, as I said, was that you can't share to stories due to the content shape. And then the other thing I think which won't keep me locked in is there's no shared content. There's no direct way to look at other people's shared clips. So it's not like, Instagram where you can share and then view the shared content, which I think is a big pull in back into the app. So because they don't have that, it's not like part of my social media flow. And yeah,
to me, there is, because Apple doesn't have their own social platform. There is a disconnect there. So if you think about things like Instagram have Boomerang and their other side apps, they're still used often by myself and I know by yourself, because they're directly linked to Instagram. There's a reason to keep using them. I just feel like, with this one, I appreciate the idea behind it. It's like you can create your thing and then post it where you want. But as you said, those few factors, like no Snapchat integration, not being able to use it in certain areas, and that square only format, they're clearly thinking of purely, one compromise size across all social platforms. But yeah, if they did do an update and added different formats and further integration, then maybe it could survive. I'd be keen to use it maybe a bit for some podcast related stuff. But I mean, there is this current worldwide obsession with this short form, funny video, animated everything, style of communication. How long do you think that's going to last?
Ooh, I'm not sure. I think I would say at least probably the next 2 years. Probably longer, but I'm just going to go on the shorter side for now.
Yeah, I'm thinking 3, max 5. I mean, I don't know what. Yeah, as new technology comes out and becomes standard in phones, there'll be some sort of fun social tie-in with that.
Yeah.
Because, I like the 360 degree videos still exist, but they sort of seem to really, like, there's a big surge and spike of them, and now they're just, I know that's a much different thing because it doesn't involve adding animations and it's much more of a thing that can be used on a professional level.
The one thing I don't like about 360 videos is I always feel like and am missing out on something, because if you're not missing out on something, then there's no point in it being 360. Then it might as well just be the normal, view that we would have. But, if you've made good content where anywhere you're looking is entertaining, then you're always missing out on something. And so I don't like that kind of video.
I think one of the best examples of using 360 I saw recently on Facebook was Netflix had an ad running, and it's like, what are you going to watch tonight? And you hold up your phone and it says close your eyes and spin around, and it was like you were inside a carousel of different movies.
That's cool.
So it's just kind of, and that was cool because then there's always something to see. And so I like.
But there, the point is to miss out on something, right? And to focus on one thing. So it's basically taking my exact criticism and using it to its advantage. But the one thing, I just want to give a public service announcement about clips. If you make a long clip and you've got a 6S or 7, just be careful of the size of the file that you're sharing, because with 4K video, it can get really big really quickly. And so like a 5-minute video is really large. And if you're iMessaging that and you're either on a paid, like a plan where you've capped, or your friend is on a cap plan, just be aware of that, unless you downgrade the quality, it can get pretty large. So, yeah.
Yeah. Something to look out for there. So, this brings us to the end. And as I promised at the start, in celebration of our first birthday, the announcement is, before the next episode, we're going to launch the Apple Slice website. And I'm pretty stoked to do this. So on the site, you'll find episodes including show note links, timestamps, which is something I've always wanted to introduce, direct episode app links, so it saves you having to search. You can sign up for episodes via email. Nick and I actually have our own column, so that's it's quite exciting. And if you want to find out first about when this actually launches, then follow us on social media, which, Nick, how can they do that?
You can find Apple Slice on Instagram and Facebook at Apple Slice Podcast, and then on Twitter at Apple Slice AU. And we'd love it if you emailed us with any feedback or thoughts, which you can do at listen@appleslice.com.au.
And of course, if you'd like to subscribe and you haven't already, just search Apple Slice in your podcast player. And we want to be available everywhere. So if you've tried to find us and you can't, then please let us know and we'll do what we can to make ourselves available. Episodes are now available on YouTube. So if you just search Apple Slice Podcast, you'll see them there. If that's more the way that you listen to your podcasts. And of course, iTunes reviews would be much appreciated. So 1 year, Nick, we made it. It's been a quick journey. Definitely learned a lot about podcasting and each other. As we've said, didn't know each other at the start. So how are you feeling about where we are now and the year ahead? I mean, there's plenty of exciting products in the lineup. Yeah,
there's a lot of exciting stuff going on, as you say, with our website and columns and the products that are coming up. So yeah, it's pretty cool position we're in at the moment, and looking forward for the next year.
Cool. And if anyone wants a little bit of a throwback, because you can't actually find this episode anymore, at the very end of this, after the music, you'll be able to hear the intro of episode 1. And there's quite an obvious audio quality difference there. But yeah, just something to check out if you're keen. It's good to have a chat, and I'll catch you in the next episode.
Cheers.
Welcome to the very first episode of Apple Slice. This is Simon and Nick with your fresh Australian perspective on all things Apple. This episode, we give our thoughts on the iPhone SE, 9.7-inch iPad Pro, and Apple Watch bands. Plus, we talk Apple Pay and the ongoing FBI saga. So now, prepare for a taste of Apple Slice.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.